A perfect storm. That's how Trade and Industry Minister Ebrahim Patel has described the unrest in July last year. Patel says the violence, looting, destruction of property and loss of life was the culmination of poor socio-economic conditions and a lack of law and order. Slindelo Masikane reports.
The July unrest, which resulted in the death of more than 340 people, had a devastating impact on the economy, infrastructure and business. The violence and looting stands on a record as the most expensive riot, costing the country around 50 billion rand. Trade and Industry Minister Ebrahim Patel says while the socio-economic conditions of the country are a security risk, there were some with a different agenda that lit the match to undermine constitutional order.
In my view, given what you've said as the, shall we say, contrasting evidence that you've had from many different people, that this is what they call a perfect storm. It's where many different factors coalesce to create a terrible outcome. You have high levels of poverty and unemployment on the one hand. You have people with a grievance, and I'm sure the security cluster would have given the Commission more information on that. You have a sense of people living in a society of both plenty and poverty, and all of those coalesce in a moment like this. And why it's important to recognize the interconnectedness of it is that a simple law and order approach is not sufficient. And at the same time, we mustn't let off the hook those who planned, who coordinated, and who damaged the businesses, the opportunities of workers to earn a living.
Patel says government was proactive after the lootings to assist businesses, reopen main arteries like the N3 highway, and get critical resources like medicines and food to affected areas.
We note that at the time just prior to the unrest, if we took a snapshot of the country in June 2021, it would have indicated just short of 15 million people were employed. But on the other hand, 7.8 million people who were unemployed and had actively looked for work in the preceding few weeks. If you count discouraged work seekers, you can add a further 3.3 million people. Our unemployment rate, the official unemployment rate of 34.5%, is very, very high. But we also looked at the if you like, moving target, that whilst we've had a challenge of unemployment for a number of years, that was aggravated by the pandemic. The pandemic disrupted global supply chains. It had an extremely negative impact on South African businesses.
The minister believes the unrest was a law and order challenge and failure, and that information can be better utilized to enable the security cluster to deploy resources. But he says the country's challenges around unemployment, inequality and poverty need to be urgently addressed to avoid a similar situation in future. Slindelo Masikane, Johannesburg.